stovetop mac and cheese my way. Alright, if you guys saw my previous video. Alright, I really love mac and cheese. It's like one of my favorite cheat meals. It can be cheap depending on what cheese you use. I'm talking specifically about stovetop. It's quick and it's just great comfort food. With the way I do it, and a lot of other people, it's one pan, one pot, you cook whatever you use. A couple years ago, I posted a stovetop mac and cheese video, and that one was simple and similar to how I make it now. I just add a little bit of different ingredients now. Once again, it's still lighter. It's not like I'm going all out using smoked cheddar, Gouda, Gruyere. I still keep it pretty simple and light. I have other heavy cheat meals that I want to enjoy. Going all out on this doesn't feel worth it because that becomes a heavy cheat meal then. But at some point, maybe I will post a video on me making a heavy version of mine, which that pretty much involves just adding butter, maybe get heavy cream. I don't think so. I looked at my old video. I didn't cringe too much, but I also thought about the fact maybe I should make a new one with better instructions and not all jumbled up mess telling you how to make it. Last reason. And here's the last reason. Everybody in my family likes my baked mac and cheese. I'm very surprised. With all that smoked Gouda in there, like everybody has liked it. I don't know. I don't get it. But she says she's broke. She can't exactly get the ingredients for my baked mac and cheese. I think she's just being a little lazy. Finances though, she is right on that. She also wants a guide, which I can't always be there next to her while she's making the baked mac and cheese. So I pointed her to my stovetop video, and that's where I watched it and I have all these opinions and all. I give you all my reasons and stuff. I just kind of thought, why not make this video to help her out? I think this is good for people like my cousin, which is in high school, that want to just make some mac and cheese for themselves. That doesn't include turning on the oven, doing a bunch of stirring, adding the cheese one at a time. I just want to make this easier for people who just want to make regular mac and cheese on the spot when you're craving it. So here we go. Bear in mind the full recipe will be on Instagram and YouTube. I'm making half of my recipe right here. 8 ounces of elbows or any short pasta you want. Dry. 5 ounces evaporated milk. Half a teaspoon garlic powder. 1/8 teaspoon freshly cracked pepper. 1/4 teaspoon of sriracha. Any hot sauce works. You can do any hot sauce. I prefer sriracha. 1/4 teaspoon mustard. And a little bit of spice and punchiness from both of them really goes well with these. Real quick, I want to go over something. Some people are going to question what I have in my hand and why it's going to go in there. Why am I using it? I'm just going to quickly go over it. Skip a few details. Cheese, what is it made out of? Fat globules, protein, water, calcium. Tiny amount of carbs in there, but don't worry about that. Cheese melts. Keep in mind, proteins are always raveled in. They kind of have their own matrix in cheese. Like that. As cheese melts, the matrix starts to form and they start to cross each other and kind of be straight. And everything starts to come together. Pretty much those proteins squeeze in on everything. The more you heat cheese, the more you start to squeeze everything out. And the first thing you squeeze out, one of the important things that you squeeze out that you need in an emulsification or just the forming of the cheese, that it's nice and smooth and thick and it doesn't taste greasy, is the fat. Yeah, you overheat cheese and you push it too far, you start to push that fat out. American cheese has sodium citrate, which is just gonna prevent all of that from happening. Everything is just gonna melt as nice as this does. So I think that should be enough. If you want the details, go all the way back to the beginning of my videos. The video is pretty much just a white screen, like the display. I highly, highly recommend it. You don't have to do it. If you don't want to do it, just use a good melting cheese, like mozzarella, pepper jack, Monterey Jack, and use a hard aged cheese. Flavor, of course. Both will provide flavor, but the hard aged cheese is definitely gonna have more flavor. It's also gonna give it more structure and help with that thickness. Rip your American cheese slices into tiny shreds. Add 2 ounces or around 2.5 slices of American cheese. A little bit above. The rest of that, maybe you want to snack on it. Don't do that. That ain't gonna taste good. American cheese has good flavor when combined with others. You want 6 ounces of cheese that you shredded yourself. I usually go 4 ounces of sharp cheddar and 2 ounces of pepper jack. But right here, this is mozzarella. This works too. It tastes great. If you think this isn't cheesy enough for you, add 2 more ounces if you want. Now mix that together. I would just mix all that together. I guess I'll tell you about shredding your own cheese. There's anti-caking agents in pre-shredded cheese. They have consequences. Positive, negative. Negative, they make the cheese melt weird. Positive, it makes it more shelf stable. Could be false on one of these. Prevents the cheese from sticking to each other. And this one I think is false. I gotta check it up again. Stop the cheeses from drying out. Get your pasta of choice into a pan. Much prefer non-stick, because you might deal with stickage on a cast iron or a stainless steel. You want to just about cover the pasta with water. Do about like 1/2 inch over. Get it to a boil. Lightly season the pasta waters and internally season the pasta. Don't get as salty as the sea. Cheese has salt, and you're just gonna end up with a salty mac and cheese. That way everything has taste. If you're not sure, just add like about 1/4 to 1/3 teaspoon of coarse salt. Just fully cook it through. Overcook it if you want. At Thanksgiving, when my uncle was commenting on my baked mac and cheese, he was saying pasta should be overcooked. That's what he's into. I will say come back to stir it every now and then. As it gets lower and lower, do it more often. You want to almost have no water left. While American cheese is a great emulsifier, you're gonna get even more help from this. When pasta is boiled in water, it releases starch. That starchy pasta water is gonna help keep the water and fat from everything else together. Boil pasta in a bunch of water, starch is diluted. Here I'm really concentrating it by just pretty much boiling completely out. Makes the effect of the starch a lot stronger on forming the cheese sauce instead of just boiling it separately. Yeah, and while this is boiling, let's talk about cornstarch, which I forgot to mention and talk about. Cornstarch is a great ingredient. Here. I talked about this in my carbonara video. If you want the details of me just talking about cornstarch, go back to my original carbonara video, and go to the next video and watch it. I talk about why I added cornstarch to my carbonara, science and all that stuff. Pretty much here if you want to add it. I haven't specified the amount. Cornstarch is a stabilizer and thickener, and it raises the temperature at which cheese starts to clump, which means if you end up going a high heat when melting that cheese, it'll have a bit of protection with the cornstarch. On Food and Cooking by Harold McGee, she says starchy ingredients like cornstarch and the starch from the pasta water, they prevent fat separation, stringiness, and clumping. In a way, it's just like sodium citrate in American cheese. If you want to use it, try 1 teaspoon. That's a bit too thick. I would go half a teaspoon if you really want that ooey gooeyness. I don't always do it. It's not exactly needed. A little bit of protection. Add it. As you can see, it's dry. I'm gonna turn off the heat for a brief second. I'm gonna add the cheese and milk mixture. I mean, you can just mix this. I like to be vigorous with it so that everything is evenly spread out and also evenly heated. I would just mix this until cheese sauce forms. Now, if the cheese sauce doesn't form and it's a little slow, just put it on low heat or medium low. As you go, add either more milk, make it creamy, or add more cheese to make it cheesier. You want a smooth cheese sauce? Mac and cheese is one of those things you eat pretty quick. As soon as it comes out the pan and it cools, it starts to kind of not taste as great. So yeah, one thing I've done this one time is I added gochujara on top. And yeah, I'm done. I'm just gonna enjoy my